just realized. Awesome. Well, welcome to the Schnitzer Master Agency Call, Monday, December 15th. Last full week, as G was alluding to a minute ago, to really put the gas pedal down and get some things moving before the holidays hit. Um, but one of the things that we kind of put our heads together and wanted to chat about is we have not only a lot of new agents that have come on board in the last couple months, but things that we've seen in our own production and our own teams that we're working to be more efficient with our leads and help you to do that as well through learning how to work a pipeline to its fullest capacity. Small disclaimer, we realize everyone's coming with probably different lead types, different lead ages, right? So take what you can from the conversation and make whatever shifts or tweaks you need. And my dog's gonna bark. Awesome. Can you hear her? No? Oh my gosh, she's so loud.
I can
Okay.
hear it.
I can pluck her out if you really can't hear. Okay, anyways, but I do have a slideshow that I want to pull up. But G, will you give like a 30-second overview so I can go tackle her real quick?
Yes. Hey guys. So Sarah's going to be going through her process and how she works her leads for digital leads. And she asked me to co-host today. So she's leading the call, but she just asked me to co-host and help her because I focus more on the analog leads. So as she mentioned, not everybody's doing the same type of leads. I definitely believe with digital leads, you're going to see through her process that there is a little bit more follow-up when it comes to digital leads, but she loves general life. So that's why she focuses on the digital leads, where I love mortgage protection. So my focus is a little bit more on the analog leads.
Perfect. Yeah. So between the two of us, hopefully you'll be able to take something to fit with your own process and become a little bit more efficient today. So, Scott, can you please give me sharing capabilities?
And Sarah, maybe we should go through, there's some real brand new people on here, what the
Yeah.
difference of digital and analog means.
Yeah, sure. So a digital lead for me is going to be, obviously still funneled through our, lead stream database, that it's going to be someone that's gone online and they've filled out some kind of form through a marketing platform. So it could be social media, it could be a Google, something like that. And if they respond that they're needing requests or responding with a request that they need help, it will tell me a few pieces of information: age, the death benefit that they're looking for, of course, the state that they're in. Sometimes they'll fill out non-tobacco. So I have some context of what they're looking for, and it'll drop directly into my system. And it also goes into a campaign automatically as well that tells them who I am, and that'll be calling them, as soon as possible. So, did you give an overview of yours while I'm tackling my dog?
No,
Gee.
I did. Are you talking
Okay,
about?
why don't you go real quick?
So analog leads are broken down into what we call mail-in and call-in. So if you are new and you start to purchase MIB through MIG or CIB through CIG, the bonus leads, again, can come from mail-ins or call-ins. So a mail-in lead is what we consider a mail-in A would be a very high intent lead. That is somebody who gets a piece of paper in the mail and they literally put a pen to paper and fill out their information as far as like height, weight, smoking, or non-smoker, mortgage amount, so age, date of birth, and they are writing that down and they are literally putting it in a mail, walking to a mailbox, putting it in the mail, and so that's why we call those very high intent leads. And then your call-in leads, they receive a colored postcard in the mail. So if you guys are ever trying to describe this when you're dialing, and kind of jog their memory as to what they did, because we all know when someone buys a house or refinances, if you have, you get a lot of mail. So remind them that it came as a colored postcard. There's a 1-800 number on the postcard. Basically, the postcard states, hey, would you want to protect your mortgage in the case of death or disability, if you lost your job? And they can call into that 1-800 number and they're answering auto questions through auto prompts. And that's how we get call-ins. So mail-ins and call-ins are considered analog.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. So what I would like to do, oh my gosh, Joseph, I always make you share my screen when we do our team calls. Let's see if I can do this, guys. I know I can. Okay, there we go. Okay, now I'm going to present, right? So we can all see, and then I'm going to lose the chat so that'll help me not be distracted. But G, if there's any comments that I need to pause, just let me know because I can't see it now. Okay. Okay, so working a pipeline, like we said, we're kind of tackling all of these different types from a global perspective. Mine is definitely going to be a lot more detailed because even though it just happened and it just dropped in my database, we always say speed to lead. We're trying to work that lead as quickly as possible. But I know that they probably already contacted multiple different platforms as well. Have you ever gone online and, responded to a home cleaner ad or, some kind of pop-up that came, up on your system? You probably did it to multiple things if it was something specific that you were looking for. It's the same with this. If you're online researching, Googling, you're likely to find a couple of those platforms. So I want to beat anybody else that's going to be calling those individuals. But something else that I do love is that they're also exclusive to me. They're exclusive in building up my database. So there is, some strategy behind this. So we were talking about this a little bit in the last couple weeks in our accountability group, that we were really trying to break down like, okay, I got some leads. How often do I dial? When do I dial? Am I going to triple dial? When do I send a text message? Like all of those things are a little bit nuanced as you go along, but there's definitely a starting point and there's definitely a strategy to get you up to that starting line. And then you can, kind of fluctuate based on what's going to work with your day, with your schedule, with your particular lead type. But in general, what we wanted to talk about was that in week one, is obviously the most intensity and consistency that we're going to have with these leads. We want to try to get in front of them as quickly as possible. So you're going to see that we're triple dialing. We're calling at different times of the day. If you can dial from different numbers, I know lots of people on our team have kind of been playing around with that a little bit. I dial from the CRM and I dial from my cell phone. Making sure, especially if you're new, that you're writing down objections or notes while you're going along so that you can get that feedback from your upline on your activity. If that's a lead that you're going to have to try again, if you didn't, get that appointment booked the first time, make sure you know who you spoke to and how you need to kind of refine that conversation the next time you take a crack at it. And of course, the objection is to speak to them on the phone. We definitely have more text communication with digital leads, but at the end of the day, even that text thread that we're sending is pushing them to book an appointment with me. Okay, I don't want to do everything over text message or like, if someone says just email me the quotes. We're not just quoters, right? So we want to have a conversation to explain how we can help. Okay, so as you see here as I go along, the pipeline process is going to build. Okay. I was just pretending like in week one, you only had your first batch of leads. Now, week two, we have two batches. And this is also why we're talking about being consistent with refreshing your lead resources. They build and compound on top of each other. And that's just a process. So you got to kind of get your feet under your sea legs. Okay. So 5 times through leads in week one. Then that same lead batch from week one, you're going to go through 3 times in week two, as well as circling back with anyone that no showed in week one. And you can decide if it's a text, a phone call, a voicemail, however you're being directed to do that or based on your lead type. And then in week two, you're going to be calling and connecting with any referrals of sold policies in week one. There's a whole nother process with that, but just to keep that simple, if you're receiving additional people, a spouse in the home, whatever the case may be, whatever those referrals look like, a neighbor, a kid, then you're going to circle back to those from week one and week two. Then you'll see this build again in week three. I've gone through it 5 times in week one, three times through that lead in week two. Now, two times the lead in week three. While I am backing off a little bit, I'm not like, nearly as crazy blowing up their phone probably as week one. I still want to stay in front of that lead. And I don't want to lose the ability to meet with them if we haven't spoken yet, if I haven't met with them yet. That's still a lead that's in my database that I can help unless they've said no for whatever reason. I heard Meg Madison talk on one of the training calls one time, and she said, unless they say no or die, I keep calling. So that consistency has to be worked into your process. And then finally on week three, we're now circling back to anyone that no showed in week one or week two and connecting with any referrals of sold policies in week one or two, if you haven't reached them yet. Offering policies reviews to sold clients from week one. Okay, so you're giving that 10 to 14 days for them to receive the paper copy of the application, or excuse me, of the policy packet, reach back out to you, let you know that they've received that, and then you're serving them another time to go through and make sure that everything looks right. Okay. I'm going through the first 5 weeks, just so you know. So now this is week four. Again, we're backing off a little bit. Just one time through those leads, one pass through in week four. And now you're working back through no shows from weeks one through three, referrals from sold policies in weeks two and three, and now sold clients from week two. I can't see if there's anything more under that. I need to move everyone's faces. Okay. Yep. Good. And then moving to week five, one final time, you'll just see I added one time through leads in week four and five, circling back to no shows, referrals of policies in weeks three and four, and offering policies reviews to clients in week three. Okay. So, Giovanna, actually, let me pause right there. I realize again that my process is a lot different than yours because you're usually by week two or three. Would
Yeah.
you say you're probably landing somewhere with somebody, or hey, you have a lot more resolution? Mine, a digital lead is a little bit of a slower pipeline. It takes a little bit longer to get them on the phone sometimes. And so I map out usually 5 to 6 weeks of what that looks like for me. So how is that different for you?
I think with the analog leads for me, and again, like you were saying, Sarah, everyone has different lead types. Obviously, it's going to look a little different when you're on the bonus analog leads versus the brand new analog leads. So is pretty much what I encourage agents to do is make sure you're touching base at least 4 to 5 times in week one. But as far as resolution is concerned, I'm very much the same Sarah as Meg Madison. I will continue to call throughout the coming weeks because you just never know at what point you're going to be able to get a hold of that client. And we want to continue to dial to obviously get that engagement on the phone, not just via text. So as for my analog leads, when I'm doing A leads, I typically can get resolution in under 2 weeks on those leads, just because they are higher intent leads.
Yep. Okay, that's really helpful. So I wanted to also show, like, as practically as possible, what this looks like for dial numbers. If you're new and you're like, how the heck are people doing 500 dials a week? I only have 20 leads. By week three or four, you're there because you're passing through them each 2 to 5 times, depending on how which week you receive them in. We're dialing at different times of day. We're dialing no shows. We're dialing referrals. We're dialing for policy reviews if you sold a policy. So that really does multiply and compound really fast. And you'll see 20 leads after 5 weeks. You have a solid week of dialing ahead of you to get your schedule full. So this is what it looks like. Oh, hold on one second. I want to show this. And then I'm going to give you like a sample calendar. But this is how my folders or my tags are broken down to stay active. A lot of times it's a very common thing for new agents to just like really attack your leads for like 2 weeks and then they're kind of off your radar. Okay, this helps you to have branches off the tree of lots of different routes and avenues to connect with people and to have them not lose track of you and you're not losing track of them. So I have it broken down really with the first 5 to 6 weeks. You can see I have it in my dials. I have it in folders. I know where those clients land in the timeline. I'm always starting with my daily, my most recent leads that have um, been dropped recently in my database, but I move from there through these folders so that I don't miss anyone. Okay, so, I have those date categories and then I have responded. Maybe they've corresponded with me via text, but they haven't answered my calls, or I've been able to speak with them, but I haven't booked them yet. Or I booked them, but I haven't sold them yet, or they no-showed me. And so that's a client that I need to put in my no-show to continue to call them and get them back on my schedule. We could also insert here, thanks for the reminder, Wilbur, in this sold category, we have policy reviews, referrals, but it could also be a reset. When you're doing that policy review with your client, if you're able to reset that appointment, that's a whole nother layer of serving your client and continuing with that activity for them. And then lastly, these are definitely more aged. These are people I've never spoken to, never texted with, never connected with, that are anywhere from 43 to literally almost a year old. I think I do have a category that's 200 plus that I'd say once a quarter. I sent out a message, hey, it looks like our office hasn't been able to help you get a policy in place. I'm just circling back to see how I can help you today. Like it can be a really simple message. Then they're like, what policy? Okay. And you never know who is going to respond to that message. So I don't even consider these 4, 5, 6, 7 month old leads dead because if I've never spoken to them, to me, it's still a client that I just haven't been able to reach yet. So here's a sample call block that, again, take and implement for what the leads that you're doing. But I wanted to show you different times of day what this would look like so that we're passing through all these different lead categories. So I sent this to Joseph before the call and he said, make sure you explain this one because it's a little crazy at first glance. So let's say Friday night, 4 to 6 is your dial session. Then you're doing or triple dial through your week 1 leads. Then you're doing a double dial through week 2 leads. Then you're calling no-shows. Saturday, 10 to noon, 3 times through leads in week 1, 2 times through leads in week 3, calling your referrals. Sunday, 5 to 7, 3 times through leads week 1, twice through week 2, 1 time through week 4. Okay, so you can map that out through the rest. But this is a sample calendar of 10 hours of dialing to work 5 weeks of leads at different times of day, triple dial, double dial, calling referrals, calling no-shows. It's all here so that no one is missed in the process for probably more than a week, which is how all these leads continue to stay in front of you and continue to get consistent responses from you. Okay. This could be a whole conversation in and of itself. Small plug, giant plug actually for Eleanor. I know I can't see the chat right now, but she is putting together something that we're all going to be diving into in 2026, talking a lot more about her referral process and a lot more than that. But these are the things that I do and that I've been doing consistently up until now. I'm excited to take this a lot deeper. But after a sale, you're going to log it, put it in opt-in switchboard. You're going to send an email to the client that tells them exactly what they just did with all the information. So there's no guesswork there. You're continuing to communicate with them and telling them, contact me when the policy packet is received in the mail. Or if they opted for digital, when you receive that email with your policy. I always circle back either 6 months or a year. I'll check back in, look for more business, make sure everything's okay. Billing's still fine, the policy hasn't lapsed, whatever. And then I also put 2 extra things that I do as just kind of like a side bonus for me is every 6 months, remember those older categories that I had? Or actually every 3 months, really, every quarter, I'll throw those. Oh, excuse me, I'm reading this wrong. Every 6 months, we do a sold campaign to see if there's anyone else in the household that needs protected. I do it with unsold too, with my age leads. But I'll reintroduce myself, make sure they remember who I am. Sometimes I'm surprised how quickly people forget me. It's kind of crazy. But I don't want them to forget me, and I want to be able to help other people in the household. So I'll just be like, hey, remember me? I'm Sarah. I helped you with your policy a couple of months back. Want to make sure I didn't miss anyone, especially if you started tackling, one person with the objective of circling back to other family members. And then I usually send a congrats card in the mail, or for some of my larger clients, I'll send them a Starbucks card or something fun, like just really grateful to be able to serve their family. And I think that extra stuff definitely does a lot. So, um, this is the last page, and then I have some questions for Giovanna. But if you are someone that like uses the QCF client qualification form, if you have like paper folders on your desk, if you're jotting things down, I think sometimes there are people that it's easy to forget, and we need to circle back to your notes. When I have clients that say, "Hey, like I really do need to do this, but XYZ is happening. Can you contact me after the first of the year?" You're probably all hearing that right now. I push. I try to, fight that objection and get them on my calendar. But if there's a clear reason that they're saying, I really need to meet with you in January, I literally have an Excel worksheet that has every month of the year. And I'll just put that lead on that month. You can tag them, you can create a task. There's lots of different things. But that's something I consistently do. And then at the beginning of each month, that's where I start so that I know these clients already told me, call me in January. And then you can always look for lapse business or call carriers to see if there's anything that's fallen off the books that you need to rewrite. So I'm going to stop sharing. I didn't leave as much time as I intended for you, Giovanna, but I do definitely have some questions for you to kind of dive into a little bit more of your process too. But can you share with me, our goal is to help agents move from the more aged, more affordable leads to the more recent high intent leads, right? So can you share like how you specifically help agents move through that process to get to the kind of leads that you're working?
Yeah, I mean, age leads, for some of you, obviously, that are brand new, you're going to start some of those age leads. And I think it's all about your mindset and understanding that age leads are really just a starting point. Sometimes we'll tell agents, or I'll tell agents, like, listen, there may be a possibility that you don't book an appointment for a week or two. That's a very big possibility. I'm not saying that you can't make any money. This is why we also encourage leads are great, but so is your warm market. So is reaching out to people that you know that can become leads, that can become applications, that can bring you income to purchase more leads. So it's kind of like a domino effect. But understand the age leads is really just kind of like that training ground for you. That there's going to be different seasons of you dialing. Number one is getting over that fear of the phone being heavy because it feels heavy when we first dial. Number two is going to really be learning about getting through objections. That's why, Sarah, you did such a great job. I love that slideshow. You're so intentional on your process. I know you are way, way more organized and intentional on your process than I am. But making those notes was such a good point. For those of you that are using your phone and Google numbers, I encourage my agents to print the leads out only because they can make a lot of notes. Yes, some people go into opt, they open up the lead, and then they go ahead and dial through the leads. But when you do have that format of cell phone and Google, you might want to print them out to take great notes because those notes might include what are my objections that I'm getting. And then when you do your coaching call with your agent, we've got a great resources for managing and overcoming objections, but there's nothing like either voice texting your mentor to help you, but writing those notes is being intentional. Like, how can I get through that objection? When I started, I did a lot of sticky notes for objections, and they were all on around my computer, certain objections. So I knew I would just kind of start use whatever sticky I needed to overcome that objection. So the other season too is, you know, learning to get them to show up. Again, part of the dialing these leads, getting them to show up. That's just another season you're going to get through. But having the age leads, we coach on, the repetition's going to be important. And doing that, that's why, Sarah talks about, the dials in week one, dials in week two. We want to have that repetition so we can get that engagement. We want to learn how to overcome objections because all of these age leads are going to teach us how to have confidence and how to have posture to get better. With repetition and consistency will come a posture that you are the professional and you're no longer calling these age leads with doubt and uncertainty because you're not going to know everything with age leads when you're starting off. But what you will grow is posture and really the discipline of continuing to follow up because there is so much fortune in the follow up. If you get a batch of leads and you only dial them once or twice, you're not going to get as much resolution as if you're not following something like Sarah's process. And so once agents show consistency, is when I will encourage them. They've written a few apps and they've shown consistency in dialing, in the dialing habits, because that's important. That goes back to schedule, having those habits, having that time block on your calendar. When I see an agent, Sarah, that is coachable, that they are doing proper follow-ups, and really just a willingness to work with uncomfortable conversations, because that's really what it's about in the beginning and why we have to do that consistency is learning to go from uncomfortable to comfortable. And so once they show that consistency, we move up and we get more intentional. Now we're going into a mix of aged and newer leads. And then eventually you're going to grow into the more high intent leads as they're converting more and you're seeing that they have that discipline. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And to remember that we are going to layer and overlap those. You're not just going to cold turkey go from one to the other. Like we want to be strategic with you and help you do that. And so it's, stair stepping you through that lead journey. But um, Giovanna, when we were talking earlier, one of the things that I loved that you shared with me was as detailed as my process is, I loved the simplicity of yours because I think that has gold to tons of value too, to be able to just break it down and make things really, really simple instead of as potentially complicated as mine is. So can you share like, what your desk looks like, what your follow-up process looks like, what that follow-up looks like for you?
Mine is really simple. I know. So for me, again, I am calling higher intent leads, but even when I was dialing bonus leads when I was newer, I'm kind of a paper girl. So when I was brand new, I did print my lead, so I could not only write notes on the front, but on the back of that lead, I would then have their, options. So basically, if I call the lead and I book an appointment, I have three simple folders on my desk. They're just plain manila folders. One folder is labeled appointments, one folder is labeled no shows, and one folder is labeled follow up. Because have you guys ever had an appointment where you had to follow up, but you want to put them in that folder? So I use Funnel now, and I still use that three folder method on my desk. So I can know that if I filled out a CQF with a client because I spoke to them, they're going to fall into the appointments, no shows, or follow up. So I can always have that visual. But I use Funnel. I love Funnel. Again, some of you are brand new. You're using your phone and Google, and that's okay. When you're ready to get into Funnel, there's nice features in there that I love using now, which is if I have to call a client back and you are able to hit that schedule a call button, then it goes on your calendar where it says call Sarah, call Giovanna, call Sally, and it literally goes on your Google Calendar of when you need to call them. So you can stay organized with your callbacks, but also stay organized with your, again, appointments, no-shows, and follow-ups. And as for my process, I do mail-in A's, so those you're going to get a lot more resolution faster, I believe, than in the digital leads. I will typically, for me, I will call them that morning. I will call them that evening. If they don't answer, I have a different process. I am sending a screenshot because with mail-in leads, you have people who have written the lead, written the request out, and I send them a screenshot with a text that I have that says, "Hey, here's a request that you made. I've been trying to reach out to you. I can give you a call later, or we can text, whichever you prefer." It's a very simple text. and majority of them from the MIA leads will respond. So my process is a lot more simple.
Yeah. I love it though. It just shows that everybody can implement
Right.
differently. And I loved Eleanor, your word in the chat. You just said this is stewardship
Yeah.
of really stewarding our leads well. And we all have days that we get a little frustrated, but there's always fruit there. There's always a way that you can kind of rethink it, circle back, and just look at, our leads from a different perspective, to create a process that works for you. So Scott, I want to respect your time. Thank you for having us. Is there anything you want to say to kind of recap us here?
You guys landed the plane perfectly here, 1 o'clock. I like that word stewardship, and it's kind of I know a lot of new agents are watching this, and when you get a stack of leads, you're like, all right, I know for full time they tell me booking 15 appointments a week should be the benchmark. When you really think about it, you got a couple weeks of leads underneath your belt. I see Christine, you're shaking your head here like light bulbs are going off for you for sure during this call because you're in it right now. But when you have a couple weeks worth of leads under your belt, it's not just like, hey, I've got to pressure and really work my angle on these leads this week. It takes time. I think the statistic for follow-up and sales in general is you're going to get most of your fruit between follow-up number 8 and number 12. So literally fruit is in the follow-up, and you just gave us a game plan and a roadmap for that. So I hope you guys took screenshots. These ladies are way smarter than me, so this is why I put them into play when we talk about these type of things. But this was fruitful for me. Great job.
Thank you. Love you guys. Go
See
get
y'all.
it.
Have a great day. Let's get after it.
Get after it.
See y'all.